The thumbnail is not deceiving you. The description is not deceiving you, because it's all fact, according to Fightful Select, that GCW and WWE have come into a partnership of some sorts for WrestleMania weekend. And mostly it pertains to Josh Barnett's, I should say, and GCW's Bloodsport 10, or Bloodsport X, as some people look at it, that's going to take place in Philadelphia on WrestleMania weekend. Now, to me, this should be probably the biggest sign of all. This should be the biggest sign of all that Vince McMahon is no longer in charge. I mean, first of all, go back to the Rumble, and we had Jordan Grace debut, show up there and be acknowledged not as Impact Women's Champion or TNA Women's Champion, but as TNA Knockouts Champion. And we had acknowledgement of the fact that she beat Naomi for that title. So that's, one sign that things have changed. And now here's one of the bigger ones. Outside of the Hall of Fame, like I mentioned in a previous video, where you could tell that Triple H and by extension The Rock have a say on who's going in. This is probably the biggest sign of all. One of the bigger signs, to date, if you will. I'm trying to find the right words to say. So one of the bigger signs to date, if you will, that things have definitely changed. Because, let's be honest, if Vince McMahon was still running things, there's no way whatsoever he would allow his talent to be part of this. Even if people like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and even Pritchard, maybe, if you want to give him some slack on this, or give him some leeway, I should say, even if they talked in whisper and secret discussions of allowing talent in NXT and WWE that's not being utilized right now to the fullest potential, to take part in this, Vince McMahon always had eyes and ears all over the place. And everybody knows that he would eventually find out the truth, or find out what was going to be, be planned for these talents, and he would shut it down automatically. He would shut it down instantly. Like he would bring in Triple H into his office. He would bring Bruce Pritchard into his office. He would bring Shawn Michaels into his office. Nick Khan, if Nick Khan was in on it, and he would say, whatever you're planning, for these guys to go compete in this Bloodsport event that's not WWE, erase that from your minds. Don't even think about, that ever again. He would say that, or he would make some kind of a discussion or make some kind of point in that perspective. He basically shut it down, if you will. He would shut down any potential moment or potential, situation happening for these talents to take part in something like this. But now it's not going to be the case, because it's not just Shayna Baszler, but it's several talents. Shayna Baszler is always, in people's minds, she's always fit the mold of being someone that if you just allow her to be herself, get back to her roots as an MMA competitor, if you will, and that's our neighbor's rooster. If you allow her to get back to her roots, get back to her being an MMA wrestler, being the dominant force she once was in NXT, you got basically a pathway to print money. You got a pathway to basically build somebody up that could legitimately go one-on-one with Rhea Ripley and really make that into something big and huge down the line. Or maybe even somebody to go head-to-head with Io Sky if Io's still champion down the line. You kind of get what I'm saying? They're in that opportunity now to do that again, and I think allowing her and other talents to take part in this, is one way of saying, hey, we still believe in you, we still want to push you, and hey, we're willing to work with you and let you get more experience outside of the company if you want it during WrestleMania weekend. Here you go. I think that's what's going on here. I think that's what's going on. And like I said, it's just proof Vince is not in charge anymore. He's not. Because even if you're Triple H and you go up to him, or if you're Nick Khan and you go up to him when he was in charge saying, hey, I got this great idea, Vince, for WrestleMania weekend. And he'll be like, yeah, what is it? How about we allow some of our underutilized talent in NXT and WWE to compete at GCW's Bloodsport event? And here's the thing, he wouldn't even ask what that is. All you'd have to do is say Bloodsport, And he'd be like, no, not happening. Not happening whatsoever. I'd rather have them sitting, in a superstore at WrestleMania weekend instead of be part of that. Not going to happen. But yet now it is. Yet now it is. And this is great. This is a great move, I think, on WWE's behalf. And look, some people might question, what about GCW's other potential partnerships, like with AEW and, Japan and everything. First of all, I don't think this is going to affect their partnerships with the Japan promotions that they have right now. In fact, it might open the doors for things to happen over there. And two, as far as AEW goes, the only representation they've ever had for GCW is Barnett taking on Claudio and Nick Gage showing up against Chris Jericho. Those are the only, representations of GCW that have been part of AEW. AEW has never in return promoted anything for Josh Barnett. They've never promoted anything for GCW when Nick Gage was there. They never did any of that. Never. And yet here you have a promotion that mostly has been PG for a majority of its run over the past decade or so. Here you have a promotion in WWE now under new management, now with new people in charge like Triple H, Paul Levesque, Nick Khan, and so on, that are looking at the possibility of making partnerships, that are going to be needed in the long run. They're going to be needed in the long run, to help not only continually grow the WWE brand and, expand outward more so than they are, but at the same time, it shows the other promotions out there, like a GCW, that hey, things have changed. Because look who we're letting compete on your platform. Someone who wouldn't get that chance under the old regime. And this is a great sign. Whether you love hardcore wrestling, work shoot wrestling or whatever, this is a great sign. And for anybody that's wondering what Bloodsport is, Bloodsport basically is an event that takes place once or twice a year. The second time is internationally, mostly in Japan. Like this June, I think they have Bloodsport Bushido. But anyway, it used to be under the name Matt Riddle's Bloodsport before he went to WWE and then went to Josh Barnett. Whether Matt gets it back or partners with Josh, we'll have to see. But anyway, it's an event that for the past several years has always taken place around WrestleMania weekend, along with all the other independent promotions, small, mid, semi-major, to kind of cash in on WrestleMania's presence being in that city so that they themselves can get some decent sold-out crowds to their event. Now, with that said, Bloodsport, like I said, it's an event. It's basically not your traditional wrestling event, because what they do is they take the ropes down, they take the turnbuckles down, and it's just the mat. It's just the mat, it's just the mat and what's the word I'm looking for? The sidebars, or the not the turnbuckles, but it's just the mat and the ring post. That's what it is. Just the mat and the ring post, and that's it. That's all it really is. Just the mat and the ring post. Kind of think along the lines of the Raw Underground matches, if you will. Or think along as well as the kind of shoot fight underground match they had recently in TNA. Think about it that way. As well as think along the lines of the fight pit match minus the cage. That's basically what the underground event is like. It's basically basically doing a work shoot wrestling match or work shoot MMA match or a hybrid of both, in a ropeless ring. That's what you're doing. And to me, like I said, in the past, Vince McMahon would never even consider this. I mean, they tried something similar with Raw Underground. They tried, and Shayna was part of that. But it just, didn't take off because people are like, this is not WWE. And people saw how cheesy it was getting as well. Like, if you compare the two, Josh Barnett's, Bloodsport is not cheesy. It is straight up legit, kick your ass, kick your teeth in kind of an event, work, shoot or not. And that's what you're getting, and that's what you're going to be getting here with Bloodsport 10. And again, what makes this a big deal is the fact that you have WWE talent being part of this now, you know, along with former talent. But what this also is a scouting event. Let's be honest. When it comes to WWE, we all know that when they make these kind of partnerships, they're also doing it to scout. They're scouting the talent that used to be part of them that they could try to lure back, and they scouting talent that's not been part of them they can try to lure in. I mean, you can't tell me they're not going to be paying attention to one of the matches, which is Nick Nemeth versus Speedball Mike Bailey, and think to themselves, we want Mike Bailey, you know, and that's why we're going to pay attention to this match. You can't tell me they're not going to, you know, be thinking that, because they are. You can't tell me they're not looking at the former Alexander Wolf that's going to be in this match against Timothy Thatcher, who also used to work for them. You know, it took place in one of the first three fight pit matches, if you will. You can't tell me they're not looking at him and saying, we got to get him back and we got to get Wolf back, because they are. And that's one of the other reasons they're doing this. But either way you look at it, it is a big deal. It's huge, and it shows once again Vince McMahon is not running things, because in the past he would not allow this to happen. All you'd have to mention is the name and he'd be like, no, we're shutting that idea down. But let me know what your thoughts are on this. How do you feel about this, and do you think it opens the door for other avenues to be